And we come to you from the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder for Buffs Primetime. We're out here every Thursday from 12:30 to 1:30, going live. The tape show airs later on that night on the network. Coming up this weekend, the Buffaloes have got number 8 Oregon coming to town. That's a 1:30 game on Saturday afternoon. Gary and I are going to hit the air at 11:30 out in Franklin Field. Coach and Montana Lemonius Craig, one of the great names in college football, is going to join us, and a pretty darn good receiver on top of it. And, of course, for the first couple of segments, Mike Sanford joining us. Okay, the important question, what did you dress up for as Halloween last week? To get that out of the way here.
No comment.
No.
No, we actually had a gathering on Sunday night with all of the coaches' kids.
Sure.
All of our families came and knocked on the doors, little hands knocking on the doors of the position meeting rooms. And,
nice.
It was pretty fun to see what Coach Hagen's son was a little cowboy.
I saw that, yeah.
My kids were, my daughter was a strawberry drink from Starbucks. Couldn't get more post-millennial than that.
Yeah.
And then, it was a fun event for us to be able to transition, obviously after a tough loss, to be able to get our minds right to go compete to win this game.
That's been one thing that you've been very forward-thinking on is, yes, football is first and foremost, but making sure there's community, there's relationship, there's family, part of what you guys are doing week in and week out, correct?
Yeah, it's been important, I think, especially in the situation we're in, for us to be able to enjoy the process of what we do. Because if your process is not what it needs to be, and it's lifeless, then what's going to show up on Saturday is going to be very lifeless.
Yeah.
And we know we can't do that. And I think it's important for us to not just have these types of events, but just to show even our players that our family is extremely important to us, and model what it's like to be a great dad. Yeah. I think we have a coaching staff full of guys that are just really, really good fathers. All
right, the postscript on Arizona State. I mean, you guys are down 22. You come back, you make a heck of a game of it. You nearly pull things out. Give us your thoughts on that game.
I think we showed something that we hadn't shown this year. It really, since the bye week, you look at it, in the 3 ball games that we've played, we've given ourselves a chance to win a football game in 2 of the 3. And this is something that we haven't done, which is be in a 2, 3, 4 score deficit and come back and make it a 1 score deficit, and really have a chance to get a stop and get the ball back, score a touchdown, convert a 2-point conversion, and go to overtime. And I fully believe that was what was going to happen. And I think that that's a direct result of how our process is. And I think, everybody wants to say that's a cliche line, that the process is more important than the outcome. Ask Nick Saban about that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. The process does trump the outcome, because if your process is consistently good, then the outcomes will come in due time. And that's what I believe that this week's going to be about for us.
Well, it's the idea that you are what you focus on, correct? And that's kind of the point you're trying to get across to the guys.
No question. And where do you get better? You don't just show up on Saturday and all of a sudden say, hey, give a great, pregame speech and we're just going to be better. Or all of a sudden we're going to break habits that we, have been showing for the last 7-8 weeks. You have to be in a place where your practices are very intentional and very intense. And that's what our players have fully bought into. And I believe it's showing progress. That's all we can do at this stage, is show progress, and ultimately the result is already shown, and we're keep striving for that next result.
To that point, when you look at, first off, the highest scoring game the Buffs have had this season, 34 points, the offensive numbers, as I track them every week getting ready for ball games, are improving out there. What are you seeing offensively that's being done better right now than maybe it was a month ago?
This incredibly gifted group of young players is becoming more mature, and their confidence is growing. Our offensive line's finding, its synergy. And this is something that not only can we build on for this season, but it's something that we have to build on as a program going forward. It's incredibly important for us to know that we have a foundation, and it continues to evolve in front of us, because literally 18, 19-year-old players are becoming better because they have more confidence, because they've done it more. And I think we're putting together good plans to put our guys in positions to be successful, and we're executing at a higher level than we were.
There are a lot of guys on this offensive side of the ball, both sides of the ball, actually, that you get excited about. Van Wells, and when we saw Owen McCowan and Anthony Hankerson, and guys like Jordan Tyson is a guy that when we were out of camp this fall in August, it took about 3, I think, balls thrown his way where he caught my eye, and I thought, well, this cat's got something here. And here he is now after last week, 88-yard punt return, goes over 100 yards receiving, has a touchdown of 58 yards, Pac-12 Freshman of the Week and Special Teams Player of the Week. I mean, he's kind of one of those guys you're talking about that you can begin to build around over the course of time.
Yeah, and his process has been getting better every week. I mean, we can't forget that some of these true freshman student athletes are just trying to figure out what all of us did at some point. Just where are my classes? How do I get to my to lunch on time? And so there's a process to that, and I think he's really maturing before our eyes in those processes. But he's got something that none of us can coach, and that's just pure talent as a route runner. He has speed, and I love that there's no moment for him that's too big, and I think he embraced that opportunity to be the punt returner, to be able to put it right back in within a one-score game.
I was going to say, because he was not returning punts early in the season, are you reluctant to take a freshman and put him in a position like that?
I wasn't.
You weren't?
You
saw in a practice.
Yeah, that was a head coach mandate. I think there was some reluctance on behalf of a couple. Darian Hagan coaches our punt returners. He's like, I don't know about that dude back there. I go, I do.
Yeah.
I trust him. And Hags has done a great job coaching him. Chris Reiner's like, let's go then. And I said, let's put him back there. Nico Reed is so good back there, but his value as a starter on defense is so significant. You can't really rotate your corners as much as you can rotate wide receivers.
Okay.
And I actually thought that getting Jordan back there, it was almost like it gave him a head start to being ready to go in that series offensively, both in kickoff return and punt return.
Yeah. What do you look for in a great punt return? I mean, obviously speed. You got to have that. But what are the characteristics you look for?
Really, I look for exactly what this week is about for us. The theme of this week for us as a full program is don't flinch.
Okay.
Famous Mike Tomlin line is, if you're a blinker, cut your eyelids off. And that's what it is. It's toughness. It's mentality. Yeah. It's when you get behind that ball, you got to focus on the ball first and foremost, and catching and fielding whatever punt comes off that foot. But ultimately, once you get behind it, man, it is 3 to 7 seconds of just pure courage.
Yeah.
And he's shown that in the last 2 weeks repeatedly.
It was awful fun this past week. So Deion Smith gets hurt in the Cal game, and it was, if you remember seeing that, it was kind of scary when he went down. We weren't sure what exactly was going on. 2 weeks later, he comes back out and has 111 yards and a touchdown.
We saw it, once again, going back to the process. We saw it, I think I talked about it on my Tuesday press conference. His Tuesday practice last week, coming off of what looked like a horrific injury. Yeah. I was like, he looks better. He looks more physical as a runner, and it shows up on game day. It's just a miracle sometimes that what you see in practice shows up on game day. Yeah. And Deion's toughness, once again, that's that no flinch mentality. You think about if you go through that type of injury and you're lying on that board, there's a mentality that you want to flinch. Yeah. When you get back there on that field, and I'll tell you what, he did the exact opposite. I mean, he ran with just fearless courage. I mean, he was rolling.
We didn't see Anthony Hankerson last week.
He was nursing, on the fumble at Oregon State.
Yeah.
He got kind of twisted up a little bit. So he was nursing an injury, but looked very good this week in practice.
All right, good to hear. J.T. Shroud, I think when we watched him last week, we saw some very nice plays at different times. The percentage, the completion percentage isn't quite where you want it. When you're looking at JT and there's a growth that he's going, because he's really still, we don't think of it this way because he's a third-year guy, but he's a young quarterback in terms of playing. What are you seeing from him, his development, and how to help him along through that?
Well, we're seeing more of what we saw earlier in the season was the occasional wild throw. Mm-hmm. We're seeing it more consistently, and when he plays within the fundamentals that myself and Nate Dodson, who's working with the quarterbacks, are asking him to do, you see really good results. I really thought in the game there's just one really costly mistake that JT made, and that was on the flea flicker that we had dialed up. And that really is a game-changing kind of momentum-swinging type play, just setting your feet, trusting your protection, and ripping a ball like we all know he's capable of, that driven kind of level 2 ball that's not hung up in the air. I think that was really the one mistake that he did make. Arizona State was pretty grabby. We sent some of those calls into the Pac-12 league office, and they all came back and said, "Yep, that should have been a PI. Yep, that should have been a PI," and that's just how it goes. But I think that getting him in rhythm is important. But as you've seen this year, we have the ability to be an explosive offense, and we find more rhythm when we create an explosive play. Jordan Tyson in Montana, Daniel Arias, those guys are creating more explosives in the passing game. So we're going to hang our hat on what JT does well, and that's throwing the ball down the field.
You were a quarterback and worked with quarterbacks for so many years. The idea of quarterbacks utilizing the pocket, stepping up, manipulating the pocket, That process, I'd imagine not many guys come with that innate. It's kind of a learned process, isn't it?
It is, and it's funny now, the quarterback training that is going off across the country. You know, some of these players their families are paying $50,000 a year to hire a quarterback trainer, and a lot of times they're teaching all the Pat Mahomes type throws, the off balance stuff.
Sure.
And, I mean, those things have to come up organically.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that you got to reel in the quarterback, and that's what, you know, literally 90% of the work that I do with the quarterbacks, and I've done for the last 10, 12 years of coaching quarterbacks has been how to work the pocket and simulate that. It's not something that just happens on game day. You have to coach it year round.
And there's a trust in there, isn't it? Because here you've got 4 or 5 guys coming at you that want to kill you, right? And you got big fellas trying to protect you. And you got to trust the fact that I'm stepping into. It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? I'm stepping into the teeth of what they're sending to us.
It's essentially like salmon swimming upstream.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
You have to realize that you know, everything's going past you. And I always said that as a quarterback, for me, I loved when there was a heavy upfield rush because there's always little pockets down there that creates vision for you. And we've seen some growth in that area, and I think that's an area where JT will continue to grow.
Well, the Buffaloes getting ready for number 8 Oregon on Saturday at 1:30. Again, we'll hit the air on the network at 11:30 with the pregame show on Franklin Field, and kickoff at 1:30 between the Buffs and the Ducks. It's Military Appreciation Day, by the way, at the stadium. Hey, Buffs fans, looking for a place to cheer on the Buffaloes? Join Buff Nation at the official CU Watch Party locations in Colorado Schoolhouse, Nevada, and the Blake Street Tavern in Denver. Every Thursday, we're out here at the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder. We'll continue on Buffs Prime Time. More with Mike Sanford after break. This is Colorado football from Learfield. University of Colorado football is brought to us by the Hiltons on Canyon. You're coming to Boulder for the game? We'll stay at the Hiltons on Canyon, the official hotel of CU Athletics. Back on Buffs Prime Time here at the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder. Also, you can join us right now, Coach. They're watching live right now at CU Buffs football page on Facebook.
Awesome.
So, got the audience out there. And we're getting ready for the Buffs game with Oregon this weekend at 1:30, 11:30 with the pregame. Hey, before we get talking about the Oregon Ducks this weekend, you talked about eloquently on your press conference on Tuesday. Last week, Rick George announced that Buffs for Life had put together a collective, which is in the NIL realm. And I think it's important to kind of continue to highlight that, what it means for Colorado athletics, specifically for football in your case, but why that's such a significant move here at the university.
Well, I think if you look at men's basketball and football, this is the space that we've completely entered.
Yeah.
And there's no looking back, whether you like it, whether you
Toothpaste
don't
is
like
out of the
it.
tube, isn't it?
I mean,
Yeah.
it is where we're going. And ultimately, having been a head coach and having been in the seat of fundraising before this NIL, almost every single former player, almost every single true somebody who's passionate about that university, about donating, they always wanted to know, how can I give something that directly goes to the student athlete?
Sure.
And it was a challenge. 4 or 5 years ago, it was a challenge. Like, hey, you know, we can build a nutrition bar, or we can put in a new scoreboard where they can see the replays in high def, or whatever it was. You know, and now it's very tangible. And these student athletes are playing in front of NFL crowds. I mean, let's just call it like it is. We're playing in front of NFL crowds and NFL TV audiences. This is the right thing. The NCAA did the right thing on this. I believe that this is a fan base that shows up. It shows up to Folsom, even in the most dire straight situations that frankly, we've been in at times throughout this year. And I believe we have the resources here. One is an athletic department. We've already completely funded this program properly. And now the next step is for us to be able to retain our roster, to be able to make sure that we give gifts of passion as CU community and former football players. That's going to be incredibly important for this program to take the next right step. And it needs to happen yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm making this such a big priority for me. And when I was put into this position, I had my press conference. I said the 2 things that I'm going to do in this role, and I'm going to stick to this every single day that I have this role, is I'm going to make it about what's best for the student athlete and what's best for this program going forward, because this program deserves to win. We have the support. We have an unbelievable community here in Boulder and a great financial community in Denver and the surrounding areas. There's a lot of passionate Buffs out there. This is a way that we can get the product that we all want, to be able to stay competitive, to go win a championship. And that's what we have to do.
Well, you touch on something. It's a changing world of college athletics, and it's uncomfortable for all of us because it seems to be contrary to what college athletics has been. The point of the matter, though, and the truth of the matter is, it's the reality of where we're at. And as you said, we have no choice in it right now. And so if you're going to continue to compete, if Mike Sanford has to go out and recruit, or Tad Boyle has to go out and recruit a player, and he's going against School X from some other Power 5 conference, we've got Boulder to offer. We've got a great institution. We've got a great athletic department, all the things that are great about the University of Colorado. But this is above and beyond that. And so somebody in, say, Ames, Iowa, or wherever, they've got some added value. And that's where this comes into play.
It does. Even this past cycle, I really was hired in December, really started heavily with the portal recruitment back in January. And that's one thing I love to do is I love to evaluate players. Every position, I've been in charge of an entire roster, built up a really good roster that went on to win championships at Western Kentucky. And that's the thing that I took tremendous amount of responsibility with evaluating players. And I felt like we had some really, really good players that were ready to take official visits. We were talking to on the phone. We were texting back and forth. And it was the same case over and over. It would just go silent. And that's a reality. Whether people want to realize that or not, that is a reality that, if we don't come forward with the support, not just for the recruits, the current roster, I think that we have a great plan in place. I think we have great resources like Lance Carl that knows this place, knows the NFL, knows essentially what the salary cap is all about. Yeah. And that's where we're entering. We're entering into that world. And I want to make sure that I'm doing my part, to make sure we're promoting something that goes directly to the players, because that's who I want to fight for.
The website is, if you want to go to it, and if you're a Buff fan out there and you want to get involved, B4 NIL Collective. So Buffs for Life. So B4L NIL Collective.org. And you can take part in what's going on. It really is, along with the NIL, and then how have you guys evolved because of the transfer portal, what that's all meant, and how that's affected college athletics?
I think we're having great conversations, as an athletic department to make sure that we also stay competitive in that landscape. And I think we have alignment across the board for where we want to go to make sure that institutionally and as an athletic department, and certainly as a football program, that we're communicating, on a regular basis. Those are a lot of the things that are happening behind the scenes on a daily basis. I know Rick George is working tirelessly to make sure that we can enter this next year, the immediacy of next season and beyond, to be able to get this program to the relevance that we deserve and that we are supported like a program that is nationally relevant. Yeah,
it's become now athletic programs. They recruit high school kids. They recruit, the portal. And you recruit your own roster to make sure you guys don't go into the portal. It's really kind of altered the landscape and how you kind of approach college athletics. All right, let's talk about number 8 Oregon coming to town. We all know what's coming up here. You got a gauntlet of a schedule the next month. You got 3 teams out of the 4 you're going to play in November that either have been or are in the top 10 in the country. Oregon starts that string of 4 games, number 8 in the country. Talented team, obviously. Give us your thoughts on Oregon.
Across the board, they're a team that obviously rebuilt themselves in the offseason, similar to the conversations that we just had. That's a reality. There's first and second round draft picks on their defensive line, linebacker to their front 7. I think offensively we're seeing a quarterback right now in Bo Nix that is operating at a very high level. He's gone through a lot of adversity in his career, and they like to get into some empty backfield sets, and get him in rhythm early. And they have the talent and the skill around him to turn a 5 to 7 yard completion into an explosive play. And then you have to account for Bo Nix as a ball carrier. He's a very efficient runner. I think he's gone through enough as in his career to understand when it's time to get down. In terms of not taking an extra hit. But we got to be really edge conscious. And to me, we just have to play very hard and very sound. I think we've shown that growth in the last several weeks, and we just got to make sure that shows up, and we need it to, obviously, to play a team like this. And we're not going to back down to the challenge. Or, our entire mentality this week is we're not flinching. No matter what comes our way, we're going to continue to grow, continue to get better, and we're going to compete just like we saw in the fourth quarter against Arizona State. We're going to be a team that never flinches.
The evolution of quarterbacks the last 15, 20 years. You look at Bo Nix, 2,200 yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's got a 72% completion percentage. He's rushed for 441 yards, only given up 10 total, so he's not a guy that ever goes backwards, and 11 rushing touchdowns. That quarterback position, what it's become in college athletics, when you've got that mobile guy, it stresses everything and kind of it really kind of tears apart the basics of and the fundamentals of what defense historically has been, doesn't it?
Defensively, you got to count for 100 vertically and 53 1/3 horizontally.
Yeah.
And your edges have to be sound. You have to have a quarterback player. I think that's really important. That's been really my background. Is I enjoy having a quarterback that has that mobility. And that's where we're moving towards in our recruitment at that position. And I think that's really important for us to make the defense aware that the quarterback at any given time time can take off, 3 times a game. I spent some time with Bill Walsh in his last days here, and the thing that he told me is that the number one thing that he looked for in a quarterback is somebody who had great instincts. And then number 2, he said, I want a guy that can get me 3 first downs a game with his legs. Had nothing to do with like being able to throw the ball 65 yards down the field, or it was those 2 things: tremendous instincts, knowing when to throw the ball away, knowing when to try to fit a ball in there, and then taking off. So Bill Walsh was ahead of his time. And if you think about it, everybody thinks it's changed tremendously. Joe Montana, Steve Young, they were exactly that guy.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about, nobody had greater instincts ever than Joe Montana maybe in the game of football, and Steve Young had some of the greatest legs in quarterback position. All right, how about Oregon on the defensive side?
Like I said, tremendous fronts, defensive line that is leading the country right now. Number 3, is one of those players that does create hurries, quarterback hurries. We got to do a great job of pass protection. It's getting better week in, week out. This is going to be probably our stiffest test from regards to, the defensive line that we're going to be blocking. Noah Sewell's a first round draft pick. It's a back end that's advantageous, but we got to be able to make sure that we continue our trend playing better offensive football every week.
Yeah. You and I were talking earlier, and I said this stretch, and specifically a game like this, that's why you coach at this level. It's why you want to come to Colorado, right?
Not only is why I like to coach, but it's why you play the game.
Yeah.
And I have all the confidence in the world that our preparation has put us into a good position to go compete. And as we know, anything can happen on any given Saturday, and I fully believe that. I've lived it my life. With USC versus Stanford in 2007,
Sure.
Nobody gave us a chance in that game, and it changed the trajectory of a football program.
Before we let you go here, Montana Limonius Crane's going to come up here. We were talking about young talent in this team, and we kind of forget about him that he's a sophomore and actually played a year under his belt. But what a special talent he's become for you.
Just growth, maturity. I think the work that he's put in off season. He was a guy that was just a gym rat. Was always in the IPF and the indoor practice facility, working, catching balls. He's got a light to him. I think he's got natural leadership traits. So I think he's a very gifted player. Good ball skills, ultra competitor. And what I love about Montana is that he is still young, and we can't forget about that. But yet he's got those traits that you see in a program leader.
Well, got a great opportunity on Saturday, 1:30. Good luck, Mike.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks,
All right,
Mark.
head coach Mike Sanford, the Buffaloes will take on the Ducks on Saturday at 1:30. We're going to take a timeout here from the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder. Our assistant segment, Phil McGagan, the receivers coach for the Buffaloes, to join us after a timeout. This is Colorado football from their field. Hey, tonight's Coaches Show is brought to you by the Post Chicken and Beer with 7 Colorado Front Range locations. The Post brews delicious, award-winning beers and fries up the crispiest, juiciest hot chicken around. Fried chicken and beer go together like black and gold football talk. Stop by the Post for all your game time provisions and for next week's show. Next week, by the way, since we've got a Friday game at USC, we're going to be here on Wednesday next week. So we move the show up one day next week. So Wednesday next week from 12:30 to 1:30, because we'll be taking off on Friday, of course, for Los Angeles for that game. Time for the assistants coach segment, and Phil McGagan joining us, wide receivers coach for the Buffaloes. By the way, Montana Limonius Craig coming up, one of his guys here in a few minutes. Montana can talk a little bit, can he?
I think so.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good personality.
I believe so.
Not worried about. He can catch some footballs too. That
He
guy.
sure can.
Huh?
He's doing a good job.
Man,
One of my favorite guys.
He's got to be fun to coach, isn't he?
He is fun to coach. They really all are.
Yeah?
They are. They're good people.
Yeah. Do you approach your players differently based upon them and who they are?
It's a good question. I think everybody is different. Everyone's individualized. So certain people, like Montana, can take hard coaching better than maybe a younger player can. So I think ultimately you have to let them understand that you care about them and you love them.
Okay.
And then you have to be able to gauge the maturity level of the player. So you do have to maybe change the tone and the messaging depending on who it is.
Okay.
I think I treat them all fairly, but I do treat each one of them differently in a certain regard.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you an inside baseball question here. That you can give us some coaching secrets. When you've got a guy that you know is a great player and you can coach him hard, will you send a message in how you treat him to the rest of the guys in the group?
100%.
Really?
100%.
Yeah?
Always. I think that goes with the success. And if we're going to put you first into progression on a number of pass concepts that you have to be held to a higher standard, I believe that you can definitely control the tenor of the room, the attitude of the room, if you can get the best player to do all the right things on and off the field. So absolutely, I think that that's a very rational way to approach controlling a room full of young people.
I asked Mike what he looks for in a punt returner. What is the number one quality you want in a wide receiver?
catch the ball.
That's it. Simple as
Okay,
that.
but it's not that simple. It's the reality. When I've had this conversation with a lot of people over the years, the two most important critical variables to me is courage. All right, I need guys that are going to be able to put their foot in the ground, their outside foot in the ground, and break inward and catch the ball in traffic and do it without flinching. You got to be able to stick a needle in somebody's eye and they won't blink. You need to,
Right.
you need to have a certain type of courage in your life to subscribe to this job. And secondly, you need to be able to catch the football. So those are the two things. And then the rest of it, obviously, you get speed and all these other intangible things that you talk about, intelligence and all of those. They're important. They're very important. But those are two. If you're not tough enough and you don't have good to great hands, it's just not going to work.
Can amazing athleticism overcome bad route running?
Not really, in my opinion. I think conversely, you can be slow and be a very effective route runner and a very effective player. Two of my best players can't really run ever.
Really?
Jarvis Landry ran like a 4.8 at the combine.
Yeah.
Keenan just beat him out by like a 4.76. You know, like these guys are not fast humans. But if you look at the productivity, the number of Pro Bowls, all right, you look at all of the different, the competitiveness, the blocking, how consistent their careers have been. Speed is a overvalued commodity at times. All right, there are other things that you can overcome and not just have great speed. To me, I'd rather take the consistent, tough route runner with good short area quickness and courage. Those guys I can usually work with a little bit more consistently than just the flash and dash speed guys that are inconsistent with their hands.
What makes a great route runner? Is it the discipline of the feet, or what exactly makes?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into route running. It's short area quickness. Can you release off the line of scrimmage? Can you vertically push a defender? Are you good with your transitions to create separation? There's a lot of words I could say about route running that would just lull these people to sleep. All right. So but we talking about receivers today. In the changing landscape of college football, I think it's really as important to develop holistically the entire human being at the receiver position and talk to them about life, because life is coming at them fast, and there's all kinds of different challenges and temptations that these guys are going through on a moment-to-moment basis. So I think that just as important as your qualifications to coach receivers or coach any position, I think your qualifications have to be about being able to teach life.
Is that now you've coached at both levels a considerable amount of time? Is it more important at the college level, what you're talking about, or is it equally important even with the NFL guys?
Well, here's the truth about where we are in college is that we've created a precocious nature where we have these players developing at a faster rate because we've introduced money into this NIL space. So when we do that, and we've created a capitalistic college environment, we have to force these people to grow up faster. So we have to have conversations with them that we have had with professional athletes about what to do and what not to do with money. At 22 years old, we're having those conversations at 18 or 17 years old. So what we've done is we accelerated their developmental curves. So there's a lot of unforeseen offshoot variables and permutations of the human character when you introduce money to it. So I think we have to be very, very cautious about what we say to our young people, how we address them, and what we're talking about, and treating them like adults, because they have to make adult decisions, because they can leave at any moment, and with the transfer portal being what it is. They're getting money at certain points in certain places more than others. So in my mind, you just have to be prepared to develop young people faster and help them through difficult decisions just in a more truncated manner.
That's a very interesting viewpoint right there that I don't think has been talked about nearly enough about this transition we've gone into in college athletics. All right, from a performance standpoint, as you kind of look at your guys in mass here, your group, how do you feel about the way they performed?
I'm encouraged by them, because we're working on a number of different high-level fundamental principles. I think they've improved. I'm very excited about the last 2 weeks in the production of Jordan Tyson and what he's been able to do. Obviously Montana had a 100-yard game. Jordan had one the week before. So I think we're trending in a positive direction. We have a very, I would say, stringent way that we teach and progress the receivers. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of splits. Montana will come up here and tell you I'm not the easiest person to play for in America. We understand that. So I think as we've progressed and the standard has been met, because again, whether it's NFL or college, it's a good route or it's not. There's no gray area. We've talked about this before. So as we've met the standard, as the weeks have kind of added up over the last 3 in particular, I do feel like the group is trending towards, the standard being met or exceeded at a higher degree than it had been over the previous 5 performances.
Yeah, and guys have certainly responded. What makes Montana unique in terms of his abilities?
Montana, he has a stick-to-itiveness to his personality where he won't be deterred, and he almost like seeks the coaching, the hard coaching. He wants to know the nuance. He wants to know the grade. When you ask him a question, if you tell it to him exactly this way, hey, it's your 9th total step, nose to toes, near upright, he tells it to you exactly in the verbiage, in the vernacular that you described it to him from a coaching standpoint. So that gives me great confidence with that young man that he's going to go execute his assignments with detail because he gave me the information back in an answer form with the details that it was given to him initially with. So those are the things that I've seen him work well at, and then his probabilities are increasing of being successful because he's where he's supposed to be on the field. The quarterback can expect him to be there. The quarterback can take his 5th step, a hitch, an anticipatory throw into a window, and Montana's there to make a catch because Montana's where he is supposed to be when he's supposed to be there doing what he's supposed to be doing.
That's got to be, I would think, enjoyable to coach a guy that there are a lot of guys that, and I played with guys back in the day that they came out, they were athletes, and they just did what athletes do. The guys that think the game, they've got to be more fun to coach, I would think, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, the game's evolved so much where you just have one play call, hey, we're going to go, all right, Fox 2 double go. Okay, that's not the reality anymore. We line up in formations. They cook to the sideline. They get another play. They got to change their split. This guy's on the ball. This guy's off the ball. There's all kinds of things going on with these young people. So it's evolved. So if you don't have an intelligent player, then you're not going to be able to get them in the appropriate plays by checking versus a defensive looks that are going to be successful versus what they're showing you defensively. If you have to line up in a play that's called, there's a chance you get caught in some bad plays. So we rarely get caught in bad plays schematically. So I think that's a testament to these young players that have been able to adjust and to take a play and then a check second play.
You talked about influencing and kind of mentoring these young men. In the last month or so, through the transition, as difficult as it's been for them, how have you tried to approach that and help these guys through?
I think we've done a really good job of talking about mindfulness and being present in the moment. Just stay here. You know, if you think too far in the past, you're almost ashamed, and it creates anxiety. If you think too much in the future, you have no ability to project the future. We have no crystal balls that we can look at and determine, so that creates anxiety too. So we're just staying there, staying present with the players. Let's focus on how we can improve today. So there'll be a few skills that we work on. So we just stay mindful. We're also talking about the evolving landscape, collegiately, and just talking about different emotions that they feel and making sure that they talk about what's pulling them in a direction that may distract them. It could be a number of different things. I think it's just been an opportunity for me to stabilize them and be a steward going forward of trying to listen, this is where we are. This is the reality. And these are the things that we can work on to become better men. All right, so punctuality, giving effort, all the little things, we're working on all these things to stay present and stay mindful and to be focused on the things that we can control at this very moment.
Good stuff. Thoughtful conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for being here today.
Absolutely.
All right, receivers coach Phil McGagan and the Buffaloes will take on Oregon on Saturday at 1:30 at Folsom Field. When we come back, the aforementioned Montana Lemonius Craig will join us here at the Post Chicken and Beer. This is Colorado Football from Learfield. Hey, we want to always thank our good hosts here at the Post Chicken and Beer with several of their Front Range locations, and they do a great job of hosting us each and every week here for Buffs Primetime. Again, I want to remind you, next Wednesday we're out here because we've got a Friday night game next week on the road against USC, leaving on Thursday. The show will be taped on Wednesday next week, and again, we'll be live right now on Facebook. Mom watching? Anybody watching right now you want to wave at over there?
How y'all doing?
Montana Lemonius Craig joining us, number one for the Buffaloes. A couple games ago at a 100-yard ball game. This offense is coming along, isn't it, the last few weeks?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would say the offense, execution-wise, is picking up at a fairly quicker pace. So, I mean, as a whole, we're coming along and we're coming together.
Yeah. Is this offense, the way it's kind of evolved throughout the season now, is it fun to play in?
Yes, the offense has always been fun to play in. We have playmakers on the field, guys that love playing for each other, so it's good to go out there and play for your brother.
Do you like having – so each of the last two games, you've had a 100-yard game, Jordan's had a 100-yard game. I know you love him like a brother. Do you compete against each other, though, a little bit?
I would say there's always a type of competition between me and him, just being two alpha males. So,
sure.
I mean, it's of course I love him like a brother, but
Yeah.
we're always constantly competing.
Yeah, but because that competition is going to raise everybody, right? The harder you play, the harder he plays, and everyone benefits from that.
Yeah, we see it as always, as Coach Phil says, just raising the standard of the room as a whole.
Exactly.
So when one player plays good, the next guy should be 1-2.
How do you think you're better in your sophomore season than you were a year ago? What would you improve at?
Just learning the game. So I mean, I have a great teacher in Coach Phil. He teaches me a lot throughout the whole course of the offseason and this season. So I just been learning step by step on how to identify coverages, better attack leverages, and just opening up my toolbox to be able to win.
You know, a lot of players, because all of you guys, when you play at this level, where you came from, chances are you're the best athlete in the field most of the time. Were you always a cerebral player? Were you always a guy that wanted to know the why of what you were doing, or was that something you learned when you got to college and were forced to?
I would say that's something I learned when I got to college because, as you said, we was more so the better player where we were, wherever we came from.
You're bigger and faster, right?
Yeah, so I didn't really have to lock in all the fundamental aspects of the game.
Right.
So once I got to college, I really realized, okay, everybody's good, so you have to have something that you can do that's better than somebody else.
Yeah, because you're a guy that wants to play in the NFL. You're playing against across the line of scrimmage from a corner that wants to be in the NFL.
Yeah.
So you guys are all trying to get to the same place. What's some of the most important things you've learned about the position and the execution since you really started studying the game?
I would say patience is very critical. Being a wide receiver, blocking, perimeter blocking, and then just being able to have counter attacks. Because at the end of the day, you never know what a DB will come play with coverage they're in, so you always have to have counter attacks.
Yeah. When you say patience, in what sense are you saying that?
Like controlling your speed and your route, getting to your route depth, timing with the quarterback, everything. Some things can be time around, some things you can add your own flavor to it, so you just need to know when to and when not to.
Okay. In your view, have you really improved as a route runner, do you think, in college?
I would say over my time here, I have been constantly improving as a route runner.
Yeah. When you're coming out of your break and you've got a defensive back in front of you, you can set guys up, can't you, in terms of how you use your feet and your body?
Yes,
I just told him about the cough button. See, you used it there. That was pretty good. Yeah.
Yes, that's where I would say it comes down to attacking leverages.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's how you more so set up a DB, especially when you know where you want to go and he doesn't know where you want to go.
Right.
You have to set him up to be able to beat him to a spot.
When the ball's snapped, what are you looking at? What are you paying attention to right away?
Pre-snap, I'm identifying the coverage, the coverage triangle by the secondary, and then post-snap, I'm seeing to see if it's any rotation.
Okay.
And then from that point on, corners lie, but safeties don't. So the safety will usually tell you exactly what the coverage is most likely. So that's where I go to post-snap, and then I'm running my route based off the corner's leverage.
Boy, with JT playing quarterback, he puts a little heat on that ball, doesn't he?
Yeah,
It's coming on you pretty quick.
Yeah, he throws a whistle, man. It's coming out there.
Hey, Coach Phil, when he was up here, he said, I'm not an easy guy to play for. How do you like playing for Phil McGagan?
At the end of the day, you know he loves you. You know he wants the best for you, and he has your best interest at heart. So, I mean, whether or not you clash or not with him, at the end of the day, you know what he wants out of it. He wants you to be the best player you can because your success is important to him.
And you like when he coaches you hard. I mean, you want to be coached, correct?
Yes, sir. I know at the end of the day, sometimes I can be a little hard-headed, so I might need it at times. So I feel like it is the best way to get me to dial into the details that I need to.
Most good athletes are hard-headed, right? That's why you're a good athlete. Hey, go get yourself a win this weekend, will you, against Oregon?
Yes, sir.
This guy is a star to making right now at the University of Colorado. That's Montana Lemonius Craig. He and the Buffs will take out Oregon on Saturday at 1:30. Gary and I are going to hit there at 11:30 with the Buffalo Stampede pregame show as we wrap things up here at the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder. Don't forget, next week we're out here Wednesday from 12:30 to 1:30 as we put a wrap on Buffs Primetime here tonight. This is Colorado football from Learfield.